It's going to be pretty challenging today to try to figure out how to maximize the use of this day. If it were clear up just a little bit, it's really damp and humid out there and looks like it's going to rain. I wanted to get the red on the tank painted, so maybe I'll wait till this afternoon or to wait to hear from Steve about that. And I have, of course, the decals to test. Primary thing today, try to get some of these decals tested. So the smallest decal I have is the one that goes on the track day, ones that go on top of the tank. I think I'll start with that one today. And just see, we're still experimenting with this decal paper and material and dry times on the paint. We're always experimenting. You're never at the point where this is just a cut and dry thing. There's always a way you can improve it. And by sharing the information, the goal is that other people can improve their stuff, their restorations, their hobby, whatever their interest is in motorcycling, or any hobby really. Well, before I do anything on this is one of the sheets. It's been drying, actually dried an extra day because we worked on Steve's project yesterday. What I wanted to do, and I have plenty of these, always when you make decals, if you think you need 2, print 10. And sometimes you wind up using 9 of them too. I wanted to, we already put this on the video, but worth sharing. These are from Lowe's. They're called Project Source razor blades, and compared to the Harbor Freight razor blades, these are really sharp. In fact, I've already cut myself with them. In fact, what makes these real nice is that they come with this little piece of oil-soaked paper. So what I'm being careful of, what I don't want to do right now is get oil on my hands, or this, whatever this material is, WD-40 or something. So I want to make sure this blade, because I'm only going to use it once, or one day anyway. Now normally I would cut this on a cutting pad, but I'm trying to keep these as flat as possible for my test. So what I want to do is I want to just carefully cut one of these out, a small one. It doesn't have to be, this is just a test. I'm going to cut it right on the glass with a ruler that I can look right through, because it's going to be, this is just a practice part. I'm sure over the years we've done this so many times with really good success. And up until this point that we used Steve's decals, I had a lot of confidence that they would all be like that. But apparently there are a lot of variations to it. So using a brand new blade, we have a test piece. Okay, so this is only for my own benefit to do this little test. I want to see how clear this is. Now, John had mentioned to me he spoke to the people that make the decals, the chemist actually that made the decals, and he said make sure no more than 30 seconds in the water. So I'm going to make sure, number one, we don't overdo the 30 seconds. But the real thing you want, as soon as these are able to slide off, you want to slide them off. And I'm looking at my watch here just to make sure. There they go. At about 20 seconds it released. Not sure what that tells you. We're on clear glass. The only purpose of this is just to see how clear this material is when it's dry. It looks pretty clear now, but let me get a one of my trusty business cards here, and I don't know what the thing was with the stuff Steve had, but again, that's why we're trying to. Now this looks real good. One edge of it is it's the edge I cut right at the edge of the paper. I'm not concerned with that at all. I'm only looking for the, is it clear? Now you might be wondering, why bother doing a test? Just go put the decal on the part. Yeah, I guess you could do that, but I'm a coward. And I want to see, just for my own information, if I could get that to stick down. And I'm not using any of that decal, that solvent that I had. If the decals weren't coming out real good, I'd use the solvent. In fact, maybe I'll try the solvent on one more test here. But never hurts to do a test. And I want to get one other thing here, as long as we're playing rocket scientist. Because this is the whole thing in a nutshell. If this is clear, it'll bury in the clear, and you won't see that fogginess. And that does look like it's going to be okay. That makes me real confident that we're going in the right direction here with this set of decals. This is really for my own information, and I can't really show the difference in the clarity, because we don't know for sure about what's causing that, and I don't know. The vinyl one on the back was perfect. This looks like it's going to be perfect. In fact, I'm tempted to just put the little decals on the gas tank and see how that works out. Now, these two little decals, these are the smallest ones on the whole project. And what's good about this is, should Luciano and I decide to do some track days next year, again, the jury's out on that for both of us. But I just thought this was a nice little touch when we were doing track days. By the way, one of the things I found, I'm going to try to add a couple of minutes of it to the end of one of the videos soon. I found some old, and I mean really old, it's probably 7 or 8 years old, track day footage from Luciano and I doing Millville when he still had his TZ250, which to me was the coolest of the bikes, of course. And when I looked at it the other day, I said, oh, boy, did that bring back memories. We were young. The word "were" is big there. Anyway, I wanted to show this because this is actually working out pretty good. Having this on glass, I'll just use a new blade. This is going to get dull very quickly doing this, but I don't really care. That part of the experiment seemed to work real well. And when we get to doing the FZR, we'll see just how good it gets. But again, my philosophy, always start with the smallest part. Always do a little test, unless there's some compelling reason not to. And I always thought on the other bikes that I have this on, it was very nice when you went to a track day, one less piece of blue tape on your bike. You know, before I put the decals on, ordinary, this is a Harbor Freight gift card of all things. I'm going at a 45-degree angle, just over the paint lines, very gently. Never sand, never sand. Because once these decals are on, this is ready for a coat of clear, and I wanted to have the paint dry as long as possible. Just go back and forth. Don't get too aggressive, you're just trying to knock the mountaintop off on that. I can do the rest of this anywhere there's a paint edge. For right now, I just want to demonstrate this. Take a clean paper towel where the decals are going to go. Wipe it nice and clean, because when we're done, we want to get a coat of clear on this. And we don't know about the weather yet. This whole unpredictable weather, you just never can tell. Okay, so we're ready to do a decal test. I got the first one of these. Let me figure out about where this should go. I guess it's not critical. So what I'll do is, oh, as he goes around, do it the old-fashioned way. Just to get it roughed in. We don't have one way forward and one way behind. And this will be our first real test. I'm looking. The other one was 20 seconds. But the real test is when it's ready to slide off. That's why they call them water slide decals. Now, that's why I always have extra ones too. Here we go. This one's coming right off. Wonderful. So, for right now, let me just place this in. And again, this is not some kind of critical thing that's got to line up. Now, I'm just going to take a Q-tip. The idea is to do it like a sunburst. Start from the middle. Don't work from the outside in. Work from the middle out. like a sunburst. Now so far I haven't even thought about using any of that microsol or any of the other products, because this looks like it's laying down pretty good. But again, this is still in the experimental. When we get to the big decals, it'll be a whole different ball game. But it's always good to start with the smaller one first. That's for sure. Alright, so I know I'm that far ahead of the tape, and I'll line up the other side pretty much the same amount. I'll let this dry and see how it looks. So far it looks good. And next thing will be to just duplicate the other decal on the other side. So what I did, I purposely made the Yamaha ones that go on the side of the tank 3 different sizes so I could choose. So I'm going to start with the smallest one first. What I'll do, I'll trim this one off, and we laid it out in 3 separate sizes just to see, and then I can kind of hold it up, see if that's what my vision is. And I have the big one for the fairing. Now before I put that Yamaha decal, I place it, I'm going to look on the internet a little bit and see what some of the other people that have tried to do this kind of a custom job, how they've laid theirs out. Now here I've got the lettering, it's not parallel to the top of the tank where mine would be because of the stripe, but it's always good to look at what other people have done. Now see, this lettering, the Yamaha on the tank looks like I have the smallest of the 3 sizes. Looks like it's going to be the most appropriate and parallel to the top of the tank. So I'll lay that out with tape before I install it. And the good news, as always, all the custom stuff we ever do, it's all in the eye of the beholder anyway. So let me go lay some tape out. So the first thing is to get to where the top of this is kind of parallel. And I can start to see, and as I'm looking at it, now what John did, he made 1.5 inch, 1 3/4, and 2 inch. And I wanted to have the ability to change that, so I'll cut all 3 of them out since I'm going to use them anyway. And then that'll give me a little chance to look at it from different perspectives and see how I like it. Now another issue I have to deal with is just the fact this tank has a curve in it. So that decal is going to have to do a little bending. I may have to use the microsol to soften it up. So let me cut one of each size out. And that'll just give me, at this point in time, in 5 minutes, I can look at them in 3 different sizes and confirm that that's the one I want. And what I always do, of course, is clip the corner. I'm trying to leave the minimum amount of clear around it, but you can't get it that you touch the black or that the paint gets under there and it messes it all up. You got to leave some little edge. So this is the whole reason I did 3. Now, as I look at it, the medium size, and the biggest of the sizes. I get the feeling this just looks a little too big. This just looks a little too small. I think we're going to go with the one in the middle. Yeah, the one in the middle looks like the right size. So now that I've made this corporate decision, you know, what I'll do is I'll have Karen come down, give me her feedback. But she just yelled down at me. It looks like a storm is coming through. So which changes my plan a little bit because I was going to try to rush this through and get clear on it. Now I'm not going to rush it through. I'll probably just do the decals the rest of the day. Every day is a little change of plan. Now the next part of this was trickier than I thought. I got the front to back line. This is the middle size, 1 3/4 inches. And then I tried to determine where I wanted to have it. Now, when I looked at it from far away, that looked too low. When I put it up here, that looked too high. So what I did is I took the mean average and I guess that's not a real scientific way of doing it, but in this case, now I'm going to have to do, once the first decal is on, of course, I'll have to get the second one and measure all these lines over. Even though you're not going to see it, I like them to be parallel. So this whole thing, what I wanted to pass on, good information. When you're not sure what size, this is the beautiful thing about decals, if you're buying these at $40 a pop, you can't do, well, you can if you have a lot of money, but the point is, I made one that was too small, one that was too big, wound up liking the middle one. I wound up on the three heights that I wanted to have. One that was a little too high, one that was a little too low, and picked the one right in the middle. And that's the way the proper word for that is interpolation, when you know something is too big, something's too small. A lot of times you can't pick it right on the first shot. You almost have to go through this until you find the one that you really like. And that, at the end result is that I hope this is going to really be similar to what my vision for this project is. So now it's a question of getting that decal put on. So it's about 20 seconds to the release time here. So I'm hoping that that's going to work out just the way I want. Now, because this is going around a curve, this is going to be a little more challenging than normal. Now, supposedly that microsol or whatever the other products are that are like that, they soften a decal so it can go around. And this looks like it's going to be okay. But I'll bet if I used a bigger size, it might really be a problem. It could be. And of course, the idea is, like a sunburst, get out as much as you can. At some point in time, you can squeegee the burst out. Now I'm thinking back to those decals that Steve had yesterday, that there was stuff coming out of them that was unbelievable. They had a lot of glue. Maybe that's Steve on the phone right now. Anyway, I wanted to show the process by which I used, of course, it's all eye in a beholder, but I think you can get a good idea. If you see it once, at least that's always been my feeling. I have one little thing that doesn't want to sit down here right at the very end, which is always the case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of this microsol. I'm not sure this is really the way this is supposed to be used. It doesn't matter. What really made this whole job different to me and better is having those brand new super sharp razor blades. Without that, and having it on glass, the blades get chewed up when you don't use a cutting pad, but right now I just want to get this on. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a minute, which is what I guess you're supposed to do. Guess we'll find out. Now, there's a lot of things in life I found that if you watch somebody do it once, you got a pretty good shot at doing it yourself. And some things it takes a little bit longer, but the saying always is you can pick up 90% of it in 10% of the time, and then the last 10% takes, oh, this really is laying down pretty nice. Maybe it is my lucky day. See, once a card gets wet, you can't use it again. So, lucky for us, this is going to work fine. And I think by seeing that once, that one little edge, well, if that's the only thing that doesn't sit just right. Now, this is the critical part. This is the part that's hard to understand. I am not going to rush over and do the other side. I am going to spend about 10 minutes here, 5 or 10 minutes. Just, I call it babysitting, because if the decal starts to curl up, it'll always curl up on the edge. I want to, and again, I'm at the middle, working my way to the outside. I want this one to be perfectly dry. Now, it may be to my advantage that I didn't give this any thought. In the past, an hour later, if it's a summer day, I could go outside and put some clear on this. But it may be better that I'm going to let it sit overnight, because if there's any moisture, I wouldn't want to trap any moisture in these decals under the clear. Just thinking of trying to sidestep any problem at all. Well, I'm going to leave the tape on because I'm going to transpose that out. I'll go take a coffee break now, and I'm happy with that. Now, it's really overkill to try to get that piece of tape to go around the tank, measure it from the front, make sure it's parallel, look from the front and get this line kind of even. I don't want to have them. If I don't have to, I'd like to have it as accurate as possible. So it looks like from the front and from the top, it looks like I've got it pretty close. So, lesson I learned on putting that next decal on, the last one, here's what happened. Is I had trimmed this way too close to the corner. And when I was squeegeeing out the water, one of these corners bled a little bit of ink out onto the yellow. So I pulled the decal off right away, wiped it off, and that's why, let me tell you, that's why we have extra decals. Because otherwise, if you only had two, or you only had the amount you need, right now you'd be in big trouble. So it's just a question now of redoing it. Same thing, but I left a little more on it. Now this is a good lesson, and this is why I do the little decals first. Now here's another tip that's really important, and I'm not sure how important, but I know it is important. In the course that I'm doing this, because the shop is about 65 degrees, it's cool down here, the water gets cool. Now it should be warm water. I put this is just warm water out of the tap. When I actually soak the decal in theory it should be warm water, and it should soak no longer than 30 seconds. And while it's doing that, I'm trying to just re-educate it into what shape I want, because these are going on a curved surface, and the heat softens the material, allows it to bend a little bit better than if you're just trying to do this with ice cold water. A good little tip. And don't cut too close to the edge, which I already did. I'm always trying to push it, and then of course over the edge. Now in the course of babysitting this, and this is a good tip, and by the way, when I say warm water, I don't mean boiling water. It's just maybe half warm, half cool, just not ice water. Seems to work a little better. Oh, but again, always good to do a little test first. If you make the water too hot, the decal will just shrivel up. Now this is the part that came off the backing. It still has glue on it. And I see there's a little edge up here that it just didn't look like it's sitting down. This is about a half an hour after doing this. And I can use that extra glue. It'll just get down underneath the edge. Use that to my advantage. And the reason this is the most difficult one to do is because it's going around a curve, and it's curved this way and this way. So it's like putting a decal on a golf ball. It's just a lot of curved areas. So that extra glue, yeah, that's going to be good. And now this babysitting thing goes on for the rest of the day, as I'll be checking these. If I see an edge coming up, I'll cut a piece of decal and even take a little of the glue off of the back of that and just rub it down. And once it's dry overnight, I'm actually glad it's not a paintable day out there, because I don't want to rush this. I really don't want to rush this. This is something that when it's done right really adds, I think, to the Ninja, the Green Ninja. Those decals that John came up with, they're one of the focal points of the bike. And I think these are too. So I just relearned a lesson of don't get too cute trying to trim it right to the edge. And this material looks as clear as glass. Another small lesson of working on decals. When you get the whole edge, and I'm babysitting this for over an hour already, the whole edge to seal, and you have no air bubbles in it, leave it alone. Leave it alone, because it's like spackle. Sometimes every time you go over it, it gets worse. Once they dry and start to set, you can squeegee out every last air bubble, and that's about as good as you can get it until we get some clear on that. Now, because the tank is ready for clear, I am going to go over this with a fine-tooth comb and find any little spot I might have that needs to be touched up. The decals are going to sit overnight. It's not supposed to rain tomorrow. Today, I wouldn't risk it. And boy, the decals, that's just one example. Thank you, John Pothier. That really came together great. Now, in the course of doing this, there's always some little tiny touch-up. I don't know why. I get real fussy about it. I scratch it. Maybe I hit it with my belt buckle, my nose or something. And the fussier you are, because this will be under the clear. Of course, once we do the clear, a whole nother issue. One part in the bank. Now that is ready for the clear. The only thing I'll do is I'll tack rag it, and I will tack rag up to the decals. I don't go over the decals with the tack rag when that's ready for the clear, but that'll sit overnight. The next decal bead, there's only 2 that go on the fairing, and they're on a relatively flat area, so this should be pretty cut and dry. Now, whenever they go on flat areas like this, it's a lot simpler. A lot less chance that you're going to have a big wrinkle somewhere. It's the curvature that makes the wrinkle. So from this point on, and of course I'll measure the other side, get this pretty close, because these are 2 decals. You'll see when you sit on a motorcycle, you'll see them. I don't think anybody's running around with a ruler, that's for sure. So far the decals have been really going on nice. And every time we do this, we learn something we didn't know the time before, and hopefully we're able to pass it on. Now, I always enjoy having a little tribute to the good old days at Amar. Several of my friends, Ray and Freddie Anderson, among others, Charlie, all were involved with Amar, and it was a ton of fun. And the memories we have of those days, I'm sure they're distorted and warped and everything. But I wouldn't trade them for all the money in the world. We really did have a lot of fun for a very. I think Mark Morgan too. I'm not sure. Yeah, probably Mark. And well, other people. I know Bob was an Amar guy. It was fun. It was fun. It was within everybody's budget, unlike right now. And what an adventure. Holy mackerel. So that's my little tribute to the good old days. I'm not so sure these aren't the good old days. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I do have this on some of the other motorcycles. And I always get people that stop me wherever I go and say, oh, you remember Amar? Yeah, I was there too, and I used to do this or that, or I had this bike or that bike, or great memories. And of course, modern day club racing is definitely a high budget thing, boy. It's out of my league. It's with polo ponies. And I'm with rescue puppies, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, this is my little tribute. Anyway, my little tribute to the good old days. Well, the FZR logo is going to go FZR 1000 on the back here. I don't think we can get that misaligned. I'm just going to cut the pieces out and see how I like them. We only have one choice here, and that's it. Oh, I really like the way that came out. John and I both spent a lot of time on laying this logo out, and now I really think this is one of the nicest of the decals here. This really came out nice. It's time to do the big decals on the fairing. We always save the biggest ones to last. Now, a little thing that's going to be a nuisance I got to make a decision on here. The panels are totally different, and the bolt holes are totally different. So if I put this up where the other one is, the bolt is going to go right through the label. So what I'm going to do is just lower it so it doesn't go through the label. I'd rather not have it go through the label, to be honest. I can move it up even just a little bit. Sometimes you have to make these decisions. The panels are asymmetrical. So to make it a little more symmetrical, and this is why it's nice to have extra decals, I just didn't want to have this bolt go right through the decal. And I realized on this one, I can just take the thing and just lower it. It won't matter. Get it to the same spot. But they're not the same. That's the problem. They have different angles and stuff. So, but I want to make them look as symmetrical as possible. And that's where Yamaha typically puts their big logo there, because they want to see that as the bike is leaning over, that logo comes up, like on MotoGP or whatever. That's about as symmetrical as you can make it. And that's what's nice about having extra decals. See, at the end of this job, we're going to wind up with enough probably to do at least one more bike. Or the other part of it is if we have any damage to this, a big chip in the paint or something, I need that decal again. Well, we always have some in inventory. So now the most difficult one, and I saved it for last, of course, this is on white paper. So what I have to do is trim off exactly with a razor, exactly that line. And I will be, what I did, I looked at, I have 6 of these all together. I only need 2. So I want to look for the best ones if there's, and actually they're all okay. Sometimes you have a little ink bleed or something that's not perfect. These all look okay. I'll just pick one at random and I'll be ready. But the idea is to get that line off, but don't go any further in, because this is going to have an 1/8 inch of a white border around that. Now, a couple of tips that'll help. Anytime you're cutting out a letter like this, it's always good to cut out any islands, the little things, the little thin areas first. It just makes it a lot easier. And by the way, it makes it a lot easier having this thing taped down to a piece of glass. The only thing happens is the blades wear out quickly, but that's why I bought a whole box. Now this decal is going to get put on in 2 pieces, of course. And again, get the islands out first. A straight edge, and it's real good if you have a straight edge you can look through. And the biggest thing, don't use Harbor Freight razor blades. I don't think you can do this with anything but the sharpest blade possible. Now I tried to make a decision if I want these to marry up to the bottom line, like they're slanting down, or in the middle, or parallel to the top line. And when I make a decision, looks like the top line is a better choice. When it's in the middle, I don't know. And we really laid this out well. Look at what it just makes it. Wow. Boy, you couldn't make a decal any more accurate than that. That is great. Now another thing my experience tells me, this is going to be difficult to line up, but it would be the easiest thing to put the big decal on and line up the R, as opposed to putting on the R and then trying to line up a much bigger decal. So I marked where this is going to go, because we have about 1/8 of an inch to spare in the front and in the back. So that's really close. But I think this is going to be fine. In fact, you know what? As I'm looking at this, I'm going to put it closer to the top. I'll put a thinner piece of tape up there because it's getting too close down here. Now I noticed something, and I don't know if this is just an anomaly or whatever, but this is worth noting. The glue on the clear is a lot easier to work with than the glue on the white paper. The glue on the white paper, it just doesn't seem to have the sticking power, and you got to keep pressing the edges down, and it could be whatever, the thickness of the decal or what, but the white one, that was a bear to get on. The rest of these, relatively easy. Not a big deal to get them on. And I couldn't be happier the way that looks. I mean, again, I have to thank John Pothier. He has really stepped up to the plate here. Now, it doesn't even matter that it's a no painting day. It's for one simple reason. This took the better part of a whole day. And well, a full day for me. And of course Miles is coming, so I want to get this last decal on, and it'll be time to hang out with the grandson. Now, one of the things I did, I took the second one of these that's on the white paper from another sheet, and that seemed to have much better glue, but I'm not going to pull the other one off unless there's a problem. But it seems like maybe one of them was a little different or a little older. Who the hell knows what? They're bananas that have been on a shelf for a long time. Oh, this was a really, really long day, and the only thing left to do here, just sit back and admire this. We have a lot of extra decals. As you can imagine, I'll put them in a dedicated envelope and give Karen back her glass, which I mean, she might not even know I have it by now. Anyway, the decal part of this job is in the bank. Now we got to wait for, and this may be a problem because we're not in the middle of having some great weather here. So we have to wait for some decent weather, and then I want to start shooting it clear, because eventually I need to bury all of this stuff in clear. Everything's going to get buried, wet sanded, buffed, polished. This restoration, just like every other restoration, every restoration is always a great adventure. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. I got to clean up the other table. The baby's on his way over here already. Now, which one is this? This is the three-legged walker? Mm-hmm. Wow. You going to be able to build this all by yourself?
Yes.
Wow. Wow, you are... How many parts? 689 parts. Wow. Pretty impressive. Let me see the... Holy mackerel. You are one talented individual.